the formulas that are here, rather than try and cram them into here, mine is super small, yours might not be as small, but you'll still struggle, right? Is have this down below in a separate section. So underneath where you've got your table, make a little subheading and call it formulas. Or formulae, whichever you're inclined to, okay? Now I just want to describe all these bits here, the actual calculations. And you guys know how to do this, right? So, for instance, sorry, I actually cut off a little bit. This is C2, right? C2, and then underneath here I've got C3, C4, and so on, right? So I want to describe all of the cells in this column and their formulas, right? So C2, remember I'm trying to convert from centimeters to meters, right? So I want to take these cells and divide by 100. That's all, right? So I'll say C2 is equal to, now look over, it's going to be B divide by 100. Does that make sense? Now because of the way that we've structured it, right? From C3 and downwards, they all follow the pattern of C2, okay? So I would probably say that. I'd say C3, 4, 5, and so on, as in the cell above. Okay? Now, by the way, sometimes in some designs, you'll only have, say, specifically, you know, maybe 1, 2, 3 rows, and then underneath here you have something else, okay? So in those cases, you wouldn't have this dot, 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 which indicates all of the rows after this will follow this pattern, okay? And you'll see this happens quite a lot. Let's come back up. I've got my height now in meters. Now I need to work out my BMI. And we all know how to work out BMI, right? It's a fraction. What's on the top? Which one's which? If I remember right, I think it's weight over height squared. Weight over height squared. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, weight is here. Okay. So I'm now looking at cell E2, which is my BMI cell. There. Okay. So I want my weight, which is 1 column over, D2. And I want to divide by the height squared, right? So division is that slash sign, right? How do I square something? What actual keys do I use? Let's go through all of them, okay? Plus and minus, no problems. We've got buttons for those, right? But if I want multiplication, I'm going to have to use an asterisk. Okay, that's multiply. If I want to have an index, right, you use that funny thing, I think it's above the 6, right? And we call it a hat, okay, because it looks like yeah, anyway. So the hat, rather than say index, is actually exponentiation. That's the proper name. Okay, so I want to raise it to a power, namely 2. Okay, so let's take our height, which was here. So that's column C, right? And I want to square that. Now, just to be sure, to be unambiguous, I would probably put brackets around that. Okay. I don't know if you'd need to, but I think you just want to be as clear as possible, right, and not leave any room for ambiguity. Right, now, there's my height in meters, there's my actual BMI. What's left is just the classification of what kind of a person this is, right? Now, in reality, you'd get in the question, they'd say, you know, classify a BMI under this as this, and classify this BMI as that. You're not expected to, I'm not expecting you to know what, you know, BMIs are what, but let's just pick out a number, okay? So, for instance, this is up to F2, right? Let's call 25. 25. Let's just say that's our magic number, okay? You're under that, you're underweight. You're above that, you're overweight. Yeah, because that's all there is, right? Okay. So how do I do this? Do you remember we have an if statement, right? So if, and then I open my brackets. So this is a function, and now there's 3 things in here. Now, I said, you know, they'll probably give you the numbers for BMI and all that kind of thing, but they're not going to tell you how an if statement, an if function is structured. You'll need to remember that. Just like, you know, you'll need to remember how to make an index or how to divide things, okay? So, does anyone remember there are 3 pieces that go inside the if statement and they're separated by commas? What are they?
E2.
Okay, firstly, the first of 3 is a condition.
Oh.
Okay, so and the condition is about the BMI, right? So it is E2. So if E2 meets some kind of condition, now we said our magic number is 25. Should I make it greater than 25 or less than? It doesn't matter. Yeah, trick question. Okay, so let's go with greater than, I guess. If it's greater than 25. Now, obviously, you could have picked less than, but your results after this will be different. They'll be flipped around. Okay. Right, if we meet this condition, morning, what should we do? It's hard. We were saying, okay, this person, wow, totally overweight. Okay, so you want to put in your quote marks there because that signifies the text, right? That's what you are, if that condition gets met, right? What's the last bit that goes into the if statement? 1, 2, the third bit is?
Underway.
Yeah, what happens if it doesn't get met, okay? So in that case, it'll be underway. Now, I'm oversimplifying just so I can demonstrate how it actually looks, okay? But that's basically what you want to get. When I'm marking, what am I looking for? 2 main things corresponding to these 2 sections. Number 1, does this design, does it carry all of the information that it needs to? Does it have all the right inputs? Is it providing what the question is expecting? Is it acting as a decision support system? When you look at this, is it all in the right place? Is it logically laid out? Okay. You possibly could put this height, because it's a calculation, you possibly could put it over here and have all of the calculations here, all the user data there. But apart from that, like for instance, it would be weird, very unusual, if you put BMI and made that the first column. That would be weird. You might not lose marks for it, but it's just backwards, right? I'm looking at that section, and then I look through here, okay? Now I really, really would love if I could invent something, a decision support system, that could take all the stuff that you guys make and then just put it into an Excel spreadsheet and see if it works. But I actually have to go through this and comb through and check every cell and make sure that your formulas make sense. So I have to do that mentally. So I'm looking for those 2 things, okay? Now, that felt like a lot of work, right? That took like a good 15 minutes to make, and it's a really simple one. This is as simple as they get. They'll get more complex than this. For that reason, based on how long the question is, the smallest spreadsheet question I've seen, smallest one, 6 marks. 6 marks. 3, 3. You think about it, right? Look how many different formulas you have to provide, right? And there's lots of different ways to get them right and wrong, okay? So there'd be like 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark. I probably should have said this for the subsequent columns as well, like subsequent rows, sorry. But you get the idea. Okay. Now 6 marks is sort of a baseline. As it gets more complicated, and there are some examples in your textbook you can have a look at. I think the most I've seen is 10. Okay, 10. There's a lot of work that goes into them sometimes, right? Are there any questions? My main tip would be to do this. Make sure you do this. This is where everyone screws up. People go straight to this, and then inevitably, as they get maybe sort of 2/3 of the way through, they're like, oh wait, this design is terrible. It doesn't have all the bits in it, or it's all in the wrong place. And so, because they haven't done this step, the spreadsheet they end up with is chaotic and messy, or doesn't cover all of the bases they need to. Okay? Yep.
So the data in, data out doesn't actually get marks.
No, I mean, much like, say, an essay plan, right? They would mark the essay, not the essay plan. But this is such a helpful tool that, I mean, that's why I do it. So, okay. And if you can imagine, it's useful here for a simple example. Can you imagine how much more useful it will be if it's like a complex one and you're having to predict things and so on and so on? Okay?